So today I basically want to go over how I sculpt heads in Blender. So not so much on importing and exporting the head, but mostly like what tools I use in sculpt mode and how I go about like sculpting the eyes and that sort of stuff, even maybe transferring next from one race to another. So if you're using a human or elf head, I'll go over how to transplant the bottom of the neck from an elf head to, for example, a tiefling head or vice versa. And yeah, so the first thing I did was append the files from Volno's Toolbox, which you can do by going to File, Append. Then you need to find where you have Volno's Toolbox located. You need to unzip the file first. And then I've selected collection, and I don't really use baking, so you can just do the display assets and lights plus camera and then press append. I also imported the human female body because we are going to need that later. And yeah, so the first thing I want to do is I've already decided which heads I want to use as my bases. So I will go to File, Import, choose the DOS2 BG3 via Collada, and I will find the heads that I want to use, which is Tiefling Head A. Import that. I will then hide all the features from Volno's Toolbox. I just need them for the textures to actually appear on the heads I'm using. I'll then delete all the LODs that I don't need. And I will, if you hold down shift while selecting the ears, you can then drag them up to the armature, and the ears should just pop right up on the head. Not that we need the tiefling ears because I plan to do an elf head today. Then I will select a second head because I want to merge or blend two head shapes together, which I also have a video on. I will link that below. I will go for Shadowheart's head. I do like that head a lot to use as a base for sculpting, and I'll basically do the same. Delete all the LODs, and then pop the ears back up on the armature. So because I want to do an elf head, I want to transfer shape keys from the tiefling head to the Shadowheart head. So select the Tief head, then Shadowhearts, go to shape keys, join the shapes, and I'm gonna set the value to 1.5. You also need to do this for all the other meshes where it's possible. The eyelashes won't work for this one as far as I know, because they don't have the same amount of vertices. Some eyelashes do work between different heads, but not all of them. As you can see, I'm getting an error that says selected meshes must have equal numbers of vertices. You could also do the ears, but considering how different they are to each other, I'm not going to do that. I'm also just gonna hide the armatures because they're annoying to look at. Okay, so I can't do the eyelashes, but I can do the eyes. I can do the eyeshadow mesh. And the teeth I could do as well, but considering tiefling teeth are different to elf teeth, I'm just gonna leave it be. Gonna do the scalp as well. And the tearline. And then just make sure the shape keys are all on the correct head. So eyes, eyeshadow. Alright, once you've checked that, just go ahead and select the shape key, don't delete it, shape key, and apply all shape keys. And do that with the rest of the meshes as well. Then you can go ahead and delete the head that you don't need anymore, which is the tiefling head. Just go ahead, select them all and hit the delete key. And your head should look a bit different now from head A. Or tiefling head A. So now what I want to do is I want to apply textures from Volno's Toolbox to the meshes from the head I'm going to be using. So I'm going to go to the material properties, select new, go to this little thing here and select F head. And if I go to the material preview or the rendered preview, it should show up. Now I'm going to do the same to the rest of the meshes that I can. The ears, unless you've joined them to the head, won't show up. They'll just keep being white, but that's fine for me. I don't mind. In this version of Volno's Toolbox, the eyelashes and eyeshadow share the same material, but I'll show you how to duplicate it and then rename it for a later purpose. Okay, I'm missing something. The eyes? Yeah. All right. Now we have all the textures applied. It's looking nice. But I do want to make some edits to the head. Before I do that though, I'm going to, because we couldn't shape key the eyelashes, I'm going to select them and then go into sculpting mode. Zoom in a bit. And using the elastic grab, I'm going to first turn on symmetry on the x-axis, and then I'm going to sculpt the eyelashes so that they sit a bit better around the eyes and are a bit more fitted. So I'm just using, I'm just dragging my left click and making sure the eyelashes sit where I want them to sit. And you can change the brush shape, brush size by pressing F and then moving your mouse right or left to scale the brush size. And then just making sure that the eyelashes will sit by the tear line. And I recommend you also go into material preview as well, just to check that it looks okay, because you can't really always tell by just doing it in the solid preview. But this looks fine. Yeah, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going back into layout and I'm going to make sure this is turned on so you can see which buttons I'm clicking. Yeah, so what I'm going to do now is I want to join the eyelashes, eyeshadows, tear line, and head together. But because the eyelashes and eyeshadow currently share the same material, I have to duplicate it and rename it. So I'm going to I'm just going to do the eyeshadow and select it. Go into shading and find the nodes. Here we go. Just zoom out until you see it and then move around with middle mouse button. And I'm going to click this button here that says new material. It will duplicate the material for lashes and the eyeshadow. And I'm just gonna rename it to eyeshadow. Then I'm going to, let me zoom in here a bit, just so we can make sure everything's okay. Go to the eyeshadow tab, make sure it's named eyeshadow here. If not, just delete the material you have and then add a new one with the new material you just duplicated. Also, be sure to go to eyelashes and make sure it's the original material. Okay, once I've done that, I'm going to join the meshes together. So I'm selecting tearline, eyeshadow, eyelashes, and a head, and pressing Ctrl J to join them together. And the eyelashes will disappear. I don't know why. I don't really care why. You just need to be a bit mindful when you're sculpting that around the eyes, that you're actually grabbing the eye area from the head mesh and not from the lashes. Okay, so selecting the head, we are going to go into sculpting, and I'm just going to make some changes. So I like to start by going into the solid preview first and still using elastic grab and having the x-axis turned on for symmetry. I'm going to just left click and drag and make some changes. I think I want this head to be a bit more round. Maybe bring the jaw in a bit. I also want to check that the head actually fits the scalp, because we did shape key it from a tiefling head and they are a bit different, and as you can see there is a bit of a gap. So I'm going to use smooth, no, not smooth, inflate, if I can find it. Inflate, deflate, turn it down a bit for strength, and then just use it up here where the scalp is. And it's important you do this for the head and not the scalp. That's just what I've been told previously, that you need to fit the head to the scalp and not the scalp to the head. And then just make sure everything's okay. No. And just Control Z if you make a mistake. That looks a bit better. I'll also get around to attaching the ears properly once I'm done with the head, because sometimes if you adjust the ears and then go back to editing the head, especially around the jaw area, you need to attach the vertices from the ears to the head again. Okay, I think I also want to edit the eyes a bit. So I think maybe making them a bit larger. Let me see. For the eyes, I do like to go into one of the textured previews, because I can't really see what's going on with the solid preview. So I'm going to maybe just drag this, elongate a bit. And I'm going to change the eyebrows. For this, you could maybe make a texture that doesn't include any eyebrows at all, just so you're not confined to a certain shape. But it's still nice to have in case you do want to use a specific texture without changing the eyebrows. And you can see, let's make her a bit sad looking, I guess. Move it up a bit. Actually, I might move that up as well. Okay. And the no eyelashes thing will throw you off a bit, but it should get better once you get them to reappear, once you separate the meshes from each other again. Do you think I want to change the mouth a bit as well? I think I'm going to make the bottom lip a bit bigger and then the upper lip a bit smaller, but also move it up a bit. Zoom in so I can see what I'm doing. Okay, the eyes are looking a bit big to me. At least in, yeah, I think I'm gonna try and make the eyes a bit smaller. If you are making the eyes bigger or big enough that the actual eyeballs look like they don't fit, just scale up the eyeballs. You can do that by, if you go to the right and select the eyes, press tab to go into edit mode and shift spacebar, and you can select scale, and you can scale the eyes up and down, and then you can move them around by clicking away and selecting one eyeball with L. You can turn on X symmetry and then move one eyeball around and the other will follow in the same direction, or the flipped direction. But I don't really think I need that right now, so just gonna keep it as is. I think I'm also gonna, an advantage of not being able to see the eyelashes in the textured previews is that you can better, what's it called? It's easier to change the eyelid shape, but you need to be aware that you're not. So like if I go here and I start pulling and nothing happens, it's because it's the eyelash I'm moving around. I also need to select the actual proper mesh and not the eyes. So make sure you have the proper mesh selected if nothing happens, and let's see. There we go. Should be able to change the eyelids now. I also sometimes like to use what was it? I think it was crease. I'm gonna try crease polish and then use that for the eyelids to kind of just create a different crease. Okay, yeah, I'm not doing that in this mode. And then just left click and move the mouse around until something happens. Okay, I don't use the sharp version. Please turn the strength down. I haven't used 4.4 for Blender for too long, so that's why I kind of have to get used to the differences between the names of the tools. Actually, I'm gonna try and use inflate instead, and if I can find it. Okay, let's see. If you want to have hair visible as well when you do this, you can always enable the one that comes with Volno's Toolbox, and yeah, I usually don't, but you can do that if you want. Okay, so nothing's really happening. Yeah, see, I've done something to the lashes and not really the eyelids themselves, which you need to be mindful of. So going back here, trying to see if I can And there's a little search bar for you here in the bottom right side if you know the name of the tool but don't want to spend too much time finding it because this version of Blender is still new to you. Okay, yeah, see, if I go here, it'll change the eyelashes. What you can do is you can go into edit mode and select the eyelashes, and with L and press H to hide them, and you shouldn't have the issue of, if you're just changing the eyelids, it shouldn't cause any issues with or interference with doing that. So yeah, if I use crease polish, that brush, I can basically just go into the crease of the eyes and shape them a bit. And then I want to check in my preview or solid preview viewport that they look okay, because sometimes they don't. And I do think I want to change the shape of the eyes a bit more, so I'm going to go to edit mode, press Alt H to unhide the lashes, and then use my elastic grab to shape the eyes a bit more. I think I'm also gonna try and move the eyelids a bit down. No, I'm not. That doesn't look good. Gonna move this up instead. Move that in. I think I'm also gonna move the eyes a bit further out. And yeah, that looks better. Then I'm gonna go to the eyes, scale them up just a smidge. That's not scale, that's rotate. Then also move them to the, that's too much. And then rotate. I think that looks a bit better. Okay, I do want to change the nose a bit now, because at least with this texture, it's not to my liking. You can one thing I always forget to do is to check the focal length that's in Blender, because it the way things look in Blender, it doesn't really translate to how it'll look in game. So I always go into view right here in the viewport, and then change it to about 90, I think, and it should look a bit better in terms of what you can expect it to the mesh to look like in game. And what was that? I wanted to do the nose. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick with elastic grab for now, and I think I'm going to make the nose tip a bit, select the proper mesh, select the nose tip right here, make it a bit more narrow there. And what I've done recently is using the crease tool, I think. Yeah. No, I've been using draw. I've been using the draw tool to define the nose a bit more. So using a small size and maybe reducing the strength to about 300-ish. I'm just gonna, nope, that's too much. 200. Just gonna draw where like the contours of the nose is. And then underneath that contour, I'm gonna hold down control and just make sure that pops even more. And that might look a bit severe, so I'm just gonna, yeah, that does look at like it's a bit too much. So I'm just gonna, okay, yeah. So if you just do like drawing out the contour, it should look okay. And what I might do as well is make the brush smaller and right in the middle of the nose, just use draw to like define it a bit. Actually, that's too small. Just check that looks okay. Doesn't look okay on the forehead. So I'm gonna go ahead and then find the smooth brush. And when you use smooth, you definitely don't want to use a lot of strength. I usually keep it under 200 because it can be very smoothing, I guess. So just turn down the strength and then I'm going to use it right here on the forehead. I'm going to go into the render preview again and the material one as well just to check that it looks okay. I still don't like the eyes, so I'm gonna, adjust accordingly. I think I'm gonna make them a bit longer or yeah. Just drag that out right there. Maybe get that and when you do like either drag out if you do both drag out the corners of the eyes like towards the nose and drag out the outer corners to elongate the eyes, it's probably best to also size up the eyes because otherwise you're left with like this pocket here of just space and it's from the side it looks like quite a lot. So I like to select the eye mesh, go into edit mode and scale them up a bit just so they fit the eye socket and then move them. Probably also rotate them a bit so it doesn't look like the eyes are turned the wrong way. Okay, that looks a bit better. You can also press 5. If you have a numpad, you can press 5. Does it? No, it doesn't work on the regular 5. If you have a numpad, you can press 5 just to check the view and if it looks okay, everything. And it looks okay. I think I might turn the eyes or twist them. So there's a brush called Twist where you can rotate vertices. So if you make the brush large enough, you can select or go over the middle of the eye, hold down left click, and then move either left or no, I need to select the proper mesh again first. Select the head mesh and then hover over around the middle of the eye and then press hold down left click and move either right or left and it will rotate the orientation of the eyes. And if it does this weird thing, just go in a circle until it looks right. So if I do like this, okay, that looks a bit better. I think I do want to do something about the forehead as well. So go back to elastic grab. Just be mindful when you're changing the forehead that you're not extending it past the scalp up here. Okay. Maybe bring in I can't decide if I want to bring in the cheeks or make them more round. Bring out the cheekbones a bit. Let's see what it looks like if I bring in the... That looks okay. I think I'm gonna extend the jaw a bit. Because not the jaw, the chin. Because I do find that the chin may look okay in Blender, but if it's even a bit small in Blender, it will look smaller in game. Okay, that looks decent. I think I like to do like this type of nose where I bring it down a bit and then give it a bit of a bump. That's just the nose types I prefer. Then maybe bring down the nostrils a bit. Check the other. Actually, I don't like. No, it looks fine. I think I'm gonna bring in the nose tip a bit here, make it a bit pointier. Okay, I'm going to go into the material preview and just fix the eyelids looking a bit pointy at certain vertices, if I can. I think I'm gonna go in and find a smooth brush and just, if it will, turn the strength down. Okay, that looks better. I think I'm gonna move the eyebrows up a bit as well. It looks okay. It's giving Dragon Age 2 elf with the nose bridge and that sort of stuff, and I don't entirely mind that. Maybe exaggerate it a bit. Yeah. Why not? Okay. Once that looks fine, I think that looks okay. Don't think I want to change the head that much more, at least not until I've seen it in game. So I'm gonna press Control S to save, just in case. Gonna go into layout and I will select the head because I want to separate the tearline, eyeshadow and lashes from the mesh now, from the rest of the head. So I'm gonna select the head and go into edit mode, and if something's already selected, just left click outside of the head that's showing here in the middle. So I'm gonna start with the tearline. So in the materials properties, I'm going to select the tearline in the list of materials and press select, and you should see, if you zoom out, there's like something orange showing in the edit viewport, and if you hover your mouse inside the viewport, press P, and then by selection, the tearline mesh should then separate from the head mesh. So I'm just gonna real quick just rename that so I know where everything is. Go back into edit mode, select the eyelashes, and do the same again. Press P, separate by selection, rename, go back to the head, select eyeshadow, press P, separate by selection. And that should be it. So if your eyelashes still aren't showing, it's because of the UV maps, and I will go over that now. So first, starting with the head mesh, I'm going to delete all the materials that don't belong to the head, because this might cause issues with how textures look in game for some reason. So yeah, once you've deleted all the materials you don't need, you can go into the object data properties, go to UV maps, and delete all the, so because we're using Shadowheart's head mesh, she only has one UV map for her head, but for the CC heads there will be two, so you need to make sure that you keep the two UV maps for those heads. But for this one, there's just one UV map. So delete the rest by pressing the minus button, and then go to eyelashes and delete the UV maps that do not say eyelashes. For the eyeshadow, delete the ones that don't say eyeshadow, and the same with tearline. And as you can see, the eyelashes have shown up again. Also make sure on the rest of the meshes that you delete the materials that you don't need. Alright, that should be it for separating the meshes. Now you want to check that the export order is okay for every single mesh. So PapMe 4000 has an add-on that you can use, which I will link below, which basically tells you what number the export order needs to be for every mesh. So for eyelashes, if you go into the object properties, should be able to scroll down, and down here see that the export order is set to 1, but here it says 6, so just click on that and it should change to 6. Then do the same for eyeshadow, it should change to 7, tearline. And because you didn't do any joining with the other meshes, they should be the correct number already. And you want to make sure that the LOD level is set to 0 on all the meshes as well, because especially on the head, because when you zoom out in game, you might, if the LOD level is set to anything other than 0, it might disappear. Okay, I'm going to now hide the hair because I want to fix the ears. So what I do when fixing the ears is selecting the mesh, going into edit mode by using tab, and I want to go into this preview mode. I also am going to hide the scalp because it can interfere a bit. I'm then going to move the ears until they kind of fit the hole in the head. You typically don't need to move them around if you're only using one head as a base, but if you've done like I've done and you've joined two heads together, or using shape keys, you might have to do this. I'm gonna go back to object mode, select my head mesh, and in the object properties I'm going to go down to viewport display and set it to wireframe. That way I can see where I want to snap the vertices from the ears to the head. Select the ears again and go into object mode. Then you want to go into snap, which is up here, and you want to select vertex so that each vertex that you select will snap to the position that you want it to go. So I'm going to zoom in, make sure I have symmetry enabled on the x-axis. This doesn't always work for every type of ear, but they should work for a shadow heart's ears. Okay, so you kind of want to see where the nearest point on the head would correlate to the vertex that you've selected. So if we start from here, you can see that it needs to go here. So you basically move the vertex by pressing G and then moving the mouse over to its position by the head vertex that it corresponds to. And you just want to do this all the way around. No, that's wrong. And make sure you select the correct vertices. Okay, if this happens and you can't see where the next vertex point is, you can just hide the head. Where's the head? There. And select it and unhide the head. And that should be all the ears. I'm just gonna check inside here. Nope, still missing this one. There we go. And that should be all the ears joined together. We do need to do something else though in order for no what's it called? No seams to show up on the head in game. So if you go up here and then turn off outline, you'll see that there is a seam in Blender for where the head is or where the ears and head join. So what you want to do is Padme 4000 has another add-on where you can fix that. So you want to select the ears first, then click normal map transfer. Then you need to go to the modifier tab, which is, I need to remember, there. It will then have a data transfer modifier added, and select the source. For the source, you need to select the head. So just use the dropper tool there. And then you apply the data transfer by pressing Control A. Then you need to go into edit mode. And if you hold down Alt and press like this, left click, and hold down Shift, Alt, and left click, you should be able to mark the edge loops on the ears. If you then press Control I, you can invert it and then go into mesh, normals, average, face area, or you can just click the button that's in the add-on and it should look better and fix the seam that's on there. Okay, so I'm just gonna unhide the clothes and just move my camera strategically so I don't show any unnecessary stuff that YouTube doesn't like. But if I hide the clothing, you can see that there's a seam around the neck, and that's because we shape keyed a tiefling head and a half-elf head. Half-elf humans and elves and drows, they share the same body type, so you don't have to do any adjustments to the neck there. But if you're, as I've said before, if you're going from tiefling and converting that to an elf head or vice versa, you need to change the neck, or if you've used shape keys like I have. So I'm gonna enable the clothes back on and wash. No, I'm not. For now I am. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to import the same shadow heart head as before, just because that's the mesh I used. import that again, and I'm going to delete, besides the armature, I'm going to delete everything except for the head. And the reason why I choose to import the same head as that I used before is because they share the same UV map name, so I don't have to change that. If you are doing this with two different heads though, make sure that before you join the meshes together that the UV map name here, and in case you have two names, two UV maps, that the names are identical before you join. Okay, so first thing we're gonna do is hide the clothes, hide the first head. So for the head you imported, you want to go into edit mode and you want to go into face select. That's just what I do, find the easiest. And you're gonna select all the bottom faces. And for this one, because this is the bottom part that's attached to the body, you want to invert it with Control I, and then press X to delete faces, and you should have just the bottom row left. Hide that for now and unhide the mesh you edited, and select the head, go into edit mode, and do the same thing where you select the faces around the neck at the bottom. This time you do not want to invert, you just want to delete the faces that are there. Then you want to unhide the bottom part from the other mesh, and select both meshes in edit mode. And then you want to do what you basically did with the ears and go to vertex select and basically just snap the top row of vertices together with the bottom ones and do that all the way around. Once you've done that, you can then go to object mode again. Then you want to select first the bottom part of the neck, then the head mesh that you edited, and press Control J, and that should join them together. There will be a seam now, but the way to fix this is go select the head, go into edit mode, press A to select all the vertices of the head, go into mesh, merge by distance. And if you go back to object mode, there should be no visible seam. Okay, gonna put back the clothes on just in case. Okay, so now that we have no seams for the ears and no seams for the head, it is time to test this in the game. We also made sure that the export order was correct, so we just need to, I can delete the armature and folder from this. Remember to select the scalp so it's visible. Actually, is that? Yeah, so I need to first go into sculpt mode and just fix the scalp because I can see that the forehead is protruding a bit. Okay, that should be okay. Just gonna give the head a once over again in case there's something I don't like. Looks okay. Okay, so I'm going to select, or it's unhide the armature, select all the meshes and the armature, and go to File, Export via Collada, or BG2 via Collada, and I have a preset for, I did have a preset for heads, but since I'm using 4.4, I need to make a new one, which is fine. So you want to make sure that you set rotate to disabled for Y up under miscellaneous settings. No. Under hide GR2 options, you want to make sure that flip meshes on x-axis is not checked, because if it is, the eyes will look very weird in game. Convert to Y-up can be left on, and then once you've selected all the settings you want, and I usually go for selected only as well, you can click the plus sign here to add a preset. I just call it BG3 head, and it will be right here, so you don't need to uncheck and check whatever boxes you need to in the future. What did I call this head? Let's call it BG3 head sculpt. And export. Okay, so I'm getting some errors, which is the ears have no armature modifier, so I'm gonna go back and yeah, this is something I usually forget because I haven't made heads in a while. What you want to do is for the ears, you want to go into the object data properties and make a new vertex group called head M. Then with the having that vertex group selected, go into edit mode, select all with A, assign, press assign, and if you go into weight paint mode, they should be all red. Then go into the modifier, make sure they have an armature the ears, and select the armature for the head. And that should fix the issue that the export gave us. So select everything that needs to be exported again. Select BT3 head. Name it whatever you want. And no error. Okay, so I'm going to... There's two ways you could go about having it shown in game, and the first one is to already have set up a mod file for adding a new head to the character creator, or you can replace, if you just want to check what the head looks like real quick, you can just replace an existing head. So that's what I'm going to do for now. So I'm going to open up my Windows Explorer, find where my Steam library is, go to Baldur's Gate, data, generated. I'm also going to open up Modders Multitool and go search index and search for, I think I'm going to replace Half Elf Head A. So that's... And this is just so I can look at what the file paths are. So I want to go public, shared, assets, characters, anims, and then make a new folder called half elves, and a folder called female, and the last folder called resources. So now you want to, now that you've done that, you want to, I'm gonna open up another Windows Explorer and find the file that I just created. And this will, why doesn't it, for some reason it doesn't show the file type name. I think, let me try and export it again. Yeah, because I didn't have the file type name in the name. So make sure to do that. All right, back into Windows Explorer. Yeah, so take the head that you just exported and copy it into the folder, but you need to make sure that it's named after the file in the game. All right, let's boot up the game then. Open up Steam. So one thing I forgot to mention was that you need, before you export and after you've made sure that the export order is correct and everything, you need to make sure that all the transforms are applied to the meshes and the armature. I've already done that now on my meshes, but basically you want to first select the armature, press Ctrl A and apply all transforms. That way the rotation in the game won't mess up and it'll show the meshes correctly. And you want to do that for each of the meshes as well. So you can basically select all of them, because once you apply transforms to armature, it will then apply that transform to the meshes, so the rotation will be off on those. So basically just select all the meshes and then Control A to apply all transforms. So once you're in the character creator, you want to find the head that you replaced. So if you replaced half elf A, you will go into the race for half elf and edit appearance. And in this case, head A is head 5. And the head should just appear. I'm just gonna change the hairstyle and remove the makeup. And that is the head I made in Blender.